When discussing Toradora with someone watching it for the first time, there's an interesting pattern that tends to reveal itself. I find that almost everyone vehemently despises Ami at the start, only to have her be one of their favorite characters towards the end. And I think there's a clear reason for this. Out of all the characters in Toradora, Ami is just the most real. Not to say the other characters aren't well done or developed, but a majority of the show is them wearing masks, putting up walls, and being fake. It's something that's reflective of that time period in their lives. Psychologist Abraham Maslow took the concept of self-actualization, the culmination of what it means to reach your potential, and arranged the foundations needed to achieve it into what came to be called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's often arranged into a pyramid, with the first few steps being physiological needs, food and shelter, the next being safety needs, stability and security, and into something that strikes at the heart of Toradora: love and belonging. High school is a time where you're most likely clothed and well fed, and have the freedom to pursue what you'd like, with your parents' discretion. It's why this time period is also most likely where you'll first encounter feelings of infatuation, and with inexperience comes awkwardness. There's this inherent disconnect between the image you have in your head and what's true in reality, and this is the problem that Ryuji and Taiga deal with in Toradora. They don't know what love is. This is why I think Ami is such a polarizing and interesting character. She's got it at least somewhat figured out. Past love and belonging on Maslow's hierarchy of needs is self-esteem, and it's clear that Ami is coping with this stage. Not to say she is completely sure in her feelings on love and her feelings towards Ryuji, but people tend to go through the different hierarchies at different paces and sometimes through different segments concurrently. Her actions feel thought out, mischievous, and methodical, while everyone else just feels like they're floundering. For example, there's a moment in the series where everyone is practically throwing themselves at Taiga on the off chance they get to experience the effects of the Palm-Top Tiger of happiness. But this is, well, stupid. It doesn't make any sense. But it does if you take into account what almost everyone goes through during this time period, where sometimes you just need the slightest of nudges to confirm your feelings. No one actually believes that Taiga is magically lucky, except maybe Haruta. They just need an excuse. And this is what Minori also believes, but in a different context. There's a certain dynamic between Minori and Ami that's interesting to note throughout the show that is almost combative. Minori feels as if she's a barrier to Taiga and Ryuji's relationship, and she hides her feelings because of what she thinks is best, not because of what she wants for herself. When I first watched Toradora, my feelings on her were mixed. I thought, who are you to decide what's best for somebody else, and doesn't Ryuji deserve to be given the whole picture and ultimately make his own decision? Ami kind of reflects this, but goes about it in a different way. What it comes down to is how they both view Taiga and Ryuji's relationship. Minori feels that Taiga needs Ryuji in order to reach her true potential, while Ami often denounces their relationship, stating that Ryuji deserves more than just to be essentially Taiga's parent. But as I rewatch Toradora, the more I identify with Minorin's view. Ami, as well as Taiga and Ryuji for that matter, don't understand love. Ryuji and Taiga have this image of love that involves butterflies, stammering, and copious amounts of blushing. While that certainly can be true, the feeling is inherently more complicated than that. So complicated that the Greek language distinguishes 4 different ways to refer to the emotion. C.S. Lewis delves into this in his book The Four Loves, and it is here that so utterly describes our main couple's love for one another. Storge is the Greek word that encompasses familial love, the love that arises from the fondness of familiarity. Lewis describes it as a love that doesn't require sweeping dramatics, but something that is ever present and understated. He says, affection almost slinks or seeps through our lives. It lives of humble, undress, private things, soft slippers, old clothes, and old jokes. Ryuji and Taiga, through their hardships, were made for each other. Ryuji, despite not knowing his father, certainly acts like one, and Taiga, despite knowing her father, desperately needs someone to serve as that support role. Ami would claim that this is some perverse father-daughter dynamic, and that Ryuji deserves someone who can proudly stand next to him as his equal, but I think that's inherently misguided. Ryuji is a naturally nurturing, loving person, and Taiga is someone who deserves to be loved and nurtured. And like I said with Minori earlier, who is she to tell him what he wants or who he loves? Isn't the fondness of familiarity often the beginning of many relationships, rather than the lightning-quick passion of Eros, if not more so? Lewis continues on this subject, stating, so affection, besides being a love itself, can enter into the other loves and color them all through and become the very medium in which day-to-day they operate. There is indeed a particular charm, both in friendship and in Eros, about those moments where appreciate love lies, as it were, curled up asleep. and the mere ease and ordinariness of the relationship wraps us round. Everyone is fake in Toradora, but they kinda have to be. They're at a moment in their lives where everything is new and confusing, and you grasp onto preconceived notions in an attempt to do what you think you're supposed to. That includes preconceived notions of love, and the essence of Toradora is how Ryuji and Taiga approach the concept, and how they discover that love doesn't have to be a burning blaze. It can also be an enduring ember. Thanks for watching, and be sure to like and subscribe for more content. And of course, if anything I said was wrong, I'm sorry. I must have stuttered.